Well, hey, Angel fans, and welcome back to Halo Territory, where we discuss all things Angels. I am Mike DiGiovanna, former Los Angeles Times baseball writer, and I'm joined by Mark Trumbo, former Angels slugger. Now, I know our last two shows are kind of heavy, with us going in depth on the Tyler Skaggs trial and doing a sobering assessment of the general manager. But I promise you, it won't be all doom and gloom here. We'll try to lighten things up every now and then, have a little fun, and we thought we'd start with a few shows for you to get to know your Halo Territory host. So today we're going to do a Mark Trumbo This Is Your Life episode. And next time we'll take a look at my 45-year career as a sports writer. Now, Mark Trumbo played 10 years in the big leagues from 2010 to 2019 with four teams: the Angels, of course, the Diamondbacks, the Mariners, and the Orioles. He was a career 249 hitter with a 761 OPS and 218 homers and 629 RBIs. A lot of you guys know Mark also grew up in Orange County, in Villa Park to be exact. So, obvious first question, Mark, were you a huge Angels fan as a kid?
What other choice is there? Yeah, I minutes away from the ballpark, and I have fond memories of going as a kid. For whatever reason, we went on a lot of Sundays. I think my dad fashioned himself. I don't even know if this was possible. I do recall him haggling at the window, and I don't know if it ever worked. He had a tendency to do that, whether it was Angels tickets or cars or whatever. But I'm the opposite. I prefer expedience. But so we would usually sit down the right field line during day games and watch Tim Salmon if he was in there. One of those things about Sunday day games too, you might recall. Social. Sometimes the stars weren't always out there, so I many times going hoping to see Vladimir Guerrero or name one of them, and might have had the day off, so you dealt with that. But yeah, I was a big Angel fan, and I think getting drafted, and we'll talk about this, but by the team that you grew up admiring is not many people get to experience that.
Now, you made your big league debut, obviously, in 2010, but that was not the first time you played in Angel Stadium. Is that correct?
That is correct. In 2002, our high school team, Villa Park High School, won the CIF state championship for Division II, and that game was played at Angel Stadium. Those games are rather interesting. I think they are able to accommodate maybe at least five games in a single day, and you're kind of rifled in and out. Despite it being the championship, everyone's super excited to play at a big league park. I know they've done some at Dodger Stadium too, but this one was at Angel Stadium. I was a starting pitcher. I think I went 5 innings or so, and I believe we won on a walk-off blooper. But great memories, and then we're told to get out of there immediately. So
No
but that was a
champagne?
lot of fun. No, lucky to get Del Taco or something on the way home. But it was a great time, and it's funny because I had fortunately a lot of other baseball memories to come in the subsequent years, but something about those high school years you remember pretty vividly.
Was there a time, like as you were growing up, whether it was Little League, whatever you played after that, early high school, where you had a feeling you were potentially a professional player, where you knew you were kind of separating yourself from the other kids?
It's hard to say. I think, and this is what I tell a lot of youth that I come across. I had ups and downs. I was at a young age pretty advanced up until about Little League or so. And then 13, 14 years old, I don't remember it being, the greatest time in my career arc. Some people develop mature quicker than others. I think I was somewhere in the middle of the road, but I know performance wise, especially with the hitting, it wasn't going well. I couldn't really explain why, but maybe some of the competition was a little, they were ahead of me in some ways. And I remember I also played basketball. I was incredibly mediocre. I rarely shot the ball. I enjoyed playing defense. Usually had to guard a guy significantly bigger than me, but that was a nice outlet, and I may have thought for all of 10 seconds that, hey, maybe I had a future in that sport. But I'm glad that I came to my senses because I had no future in that sport. So
You and me both. You were drafted in the 18th round in 2004 as a pitcher. You were also committed to USC at that time, and you didn't sign until I think a couple of days before you were set to go to USC. How close did you come then to going to college?
unless my memory is gone, I am all but certain I already had textbooks ready for. I guess what would have been my freshman year, first semester. I did get drafted. I was a guy that had a strong college commitment. We've already said USC. My dad also went there, and I got drafted in the 18th round. But I'm nearly certain. I mean, it was offered to me, so I can say it. But at the time, the White Sox were going to take me late in the first round. The dollar amount was a little bit less than I guess we had come up with. In hindsight, I really don't know why we were so firm on a particular amount. But you only know what you know, and that's what at the time made sense. And so we held out, and eventually the Angels followed me throughout the summer playing. I believe it was Connie Mack. We had quite a talented team, and they'd kind of alert me if they wanted to see me throw a few innings. And eventually they realized that the time was running out, so they made an offer that I'm pretty sure they knew would get the job done, and it did. And so that was one of the happiest days of my life. It happened quickly, and so all that was left was to get your physical done, and we'll get you out there. And that didn't go so well.
What
My
happened
elbow
there?
had been well. I knew my elbow had been barking a little bit, but not in the area that the Tommy John area. It was the backside. I'm not a doctor. I would guess at some point I had what's called bursitis, um, which is inflammation of the bursa. So tenderness on the backside of the elbow, and I dealt with that, but it wasn't that big a deal. But I knew it was a thing, and I had lost some mobility in my elbow too, as far as being able to fully extend it. So a lot of guys deal with that. You talk to a pitcher that pitched for any decent amount of time. A lot of them experience that. So I remember being in Dr. Yoakum's office. I'd gone through all the tests. I don't know if he loved everything about it, but he was hawkeyeing the late Dr. Yoakum, incredible
Yeah.
man and doctor. Despite the fact that this story is going to end with me failing my physical, we were very close, and he was hawkeyeing an X-ray, and I was like, oh, just let's go, move on. And then he said that he would just to make sure, want to get a couple more images done, and just make sure that there's nothing going on here. So into the MRI tube I went. I didn't see Dr. Yoakum again that day. Next call was to my agent, who happened to be there as well. I believe Eddie Bain phoned him and said, "We have a situation." It ended up being I had an arthritic elbow, so not great for an 18-year-old, but that was the reality. And I think there were concerns about how that would age if it looked like that then. Too much wear and tear. I don't know if it was from overuse as a youth or what, but that was what was going on. So he said, I believe they offered half the amount
Oh, wow.
in that phone call, which we said, well, that's not going to work. That we're not. I'm not desperate to sign. You already know that. So they pivoted and said that, and it was pretty candid. They said, we didn't really do our due diligence on you as a hitter. We know you can hit, but we always much preferred the arm. Would you be up for doing a few workouts? I said, sure. So I think the timing, I'm not positive, but let's say it was the following day. I was out in Rancho Cucamonga facing a recently drafted college pitcher. I happened to do well, in my opinion. I connected with a few. I don't know if they were home runs or doubles, but some solid contact. And then the next day, they said, can you come to Angel Stadium and hit early? I said, sure, let me know. I'll be there. And so my dad and I went. I have a fond or funny recollection, as Raymond to add a little more humor in the show, going through the clubhouse, petrified, terrified, like, and so we're walking through. I'm sure I had my head glued to the floor, and I kind of did look up for a second, and former Angel closer Troy Percival was on the couch, I believe, reading a newspaper. I think he only had his shorts on, and said, I'll clean it up a little bit, but basically, who the heck are you? And I said nothing. I don't think my dad said anything. I think Eddie Bain might have quickly moved things along. But it was eye-opening, and first taste of what a big league locker room looked like.
Welcome to the big leagues,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Who are you? I'm nobody. Don't mind me. So we went out, and I hit batting practice. I'll give credit, Rick Wilson threw. He did an excellent job, and everyone was there from Soch to Mickey Hatcher. Bill Stoneman was there. Eddie Bain was there. And Ben Hines, who was a longtime confidant and former Major League hitting coach, was heavily in Soch's ear that he liked what he saw. He liked the backspin, if I remember correctly. To me, I didn't think much of it. It was something I always kind of did. I couldn't explain how, but I was glad that he liked me. I hit, I guess, quite a few home runs. There were a few things written about it at the time. I doubt anybody really cared, but it is a kind of a cool story. And one other anecdote, I had a bat that I used that day that was from Big Five. Their wooden bats weren't available like they are today, but it was all I had, and it was fine. And I remember Rob Quinlan, I believe, had come over, taken one look at it, and said, "Do you want a real bat?" And I said, "I appreciate it. No, I think I'm going to be okay." So it was a Big Five bat, which it kind of makes me laugh now thinking about it. And it did the job. So credit there.
All right. Hey, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more on Mark's transition to the field and how he developed as a hitter.
Hey, make good eats at home part of your 2026 New Year's resolution. HelloFresh is what we're talking about here.
Steak, seafood, whatever options you want. They have stone fruit to corn on the cobs. God, I know you're a big stone fruit fan. But
hey, you've eaten it all.
I have. I've tried a lot of things, but HelloFresh always delivers. They're fresh, delicious meals that you get to cook. So you feel like you actually accomplished something when you eat them after you're done cooking them.
Over 100 mouth-watering recipes each week. It's made with wholesome ingredients like 100% antibiotic and hormone-free chicken, because when dinner tastes this good, nothing hits like home cooking. Go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM to get 10 free meals plus a free Zwilling knife, a $144.99 value on your third box. Offer valid while supplies last. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. Get America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh.
Welcome back to Halo Territory. Now, if we can only get HelloFresh to change their name to Halo Fresh, we might be onto something there. Mark, it sounds like the transition from the mound to the field, first base specifically, was pretty quick. But you also spent almost six full seasons in the minor leagues. I think it was around 750 games. One, how did you develop into the hitter you eventually became? And two, that's a long time in the minors. Were there times when you started to feel frustrated or wonder if you were never going to make it?
Well, it was an interesting time. I didn't play right away. I went to Instruction League, was my first experience. And another interesting conversation. I remember that day at Angel Stadium when I did the workout, we did come to an agreement. So I essentially said, okay, done deal. And I remember having a conversation with Soch, who it was, I guess, just saying hello, getting to know me a little bit. And he was kind of looking at me and said, what position do you play? And I said, well, I mainly have been a pitcher, but I've roamed around a bit, some corner infield, corner outfield. He said, well, what do you think about catching?
Oh,
And
boy.
I don't know why. I decided to say that I felt like I was a little bit too big for the position as we're standing eye to eye. So only I was, even at a young age, I said, walking away, cringing. Well, this guy probably doesn't think that much on the ball. But yeah, I signed instructional league first taste. I was playing third base, which we touch on a little bit later.
Yeah.
Just terrible then as I was ever, later on. That position, I picked a lot of people's brain trying to figure out how to play a quality third base, and I just don't think it was in the cards for me. But I ended up playing first base. At the time, probably completely delusional. I thought I did a pretty nice job. I think everyone else thought two left feet and has got a long way to go. So I really give a lot of credit to the late Rob Piccolo.
Oh, yeah.
Put in an incredible amount of effort. I think one of the highlights for him was he became bench coach with the Angels for, I believe, at least one or two seasons. And I ended up being a guy that was going in at times for late inning defense, which usually is reserved for guys that are maybe a little more competent or trustworthy than the starter. And I think it was very interesting for him because at one point, and I can get confirmation, but I already know, I don't think my defense was viewed as anything other than poor, not good.
Yeah.
So I had to work quite hard at that. And Jeter Hines, give a lot of credit to him. He was instrumental in my formative years. He was the field coordinator, very straight shooter, which I always appreciated too. Never sugarcoated it, and if it didn't look the part, you were going to hear about it. And if you needed to pick it up, you were going to hear about it. They ran a tight ship and set the tone for what was to come, and I think it was a good thing because Mike Scioscia demanded, players that were ready. You knew the signs, you knew what you were expected to do, and that tone was set at the lowest levels. And I think we were all better because of it.
You were called up in September call up in 2010. What do you recall of your big league debut?
I got called up. I had a nice year in AAA. I mean, briefly touching on a couple of the affiliate stops. Played in Orem my first year. Played an A-ball the following year and fell flat on my face. A terrible performance. 220 before 220 was, somewhat acceptable. Not the type of power that you read about. The word potential was always associated with that. And one description of potential that I've kind of come around to agree with is kind of means you haven't done anything yet. It's got a lot of potential. But it's not a great label. And I was a guy that had, they rated highly on those scales for power. And hitting 14 or 15 home runs in a full season, that's not really a lot of power. At the minor league level, I think 20 home runs was more indicative of a guy with a lot of pop. And I think after going on, I like Cedar Rapids, great place, but I spent 2 years playing there. I joke that I had such a good time. I came back for more, but ultimately repeated the level because my performance warranted that. So 2 full years there, and then Rancho Cucamonga. But around that time, I started to realize that everyone learns differently. I guess I was and continue to be a very visual learner, and that was very primitive. There wasn't a lot of tech, there wasn't a lot of video, and so it was mostly verbal coaching, and that's the way it was for everyone before me as well. But I started looking at some big league hitters. I remember Paul Konerko being the main one, and Barry Bonds, and looking at their swings and looking at my swing in the limited stuff I had, and I said they don't look anything alike. Maybe the starting was somewhat similar because we're both holding a bat, but very quickly in the sequencing of the swing, I didn't look like them, and I said, okay, well, what do I have to do to make it look a little more like them? So kind of reverse engineered it. It ended up not being close to either of them, probably maybe a little closer to Konerko's, but it took a lot of hard work, and I had so much help along the way, but that was more or less my own doing. And I was a guy that I never wanted to toil away in the minor leagues. I don't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a definitive plan, but I did know that I wanted to be a major league player. And I think that's something that sounds good, but I don't know if everyone that signs really believes, or sometimes maybe they think it's a long shot. And I was either too delusional or something. I viewed myself as a major league player, even if it was pretty bleak at times. At some of the minor league stops, I wanted to get there. I was going to get there, put my time in at each level, and hopefully at some point earn a call up, which happened in 2010. Had a nice season in Salt Lake, and in September, I remember making the drive from Salt Lake, following Hank Conger and his dad. We drove, I'm going to say through the night. I'm not sure what time of day it was, but to get there to the ballpark, or back to Anaheim in time for the next game the following day.
Well, you did establish yourself as a big leaguer that following year in 2011. 29 homers, 87 RBIs, second in AL Rookie of the Year vote. You're thinking your career's probably ready to take off, and then the Angels that winter sign Albert Pujols, another first baseman, for 10 years and $240 million. Now, I think the assumption among a lot of Angel fans at the time was that you probably weren't thrilled with that trade. What was your reaction at the time?
Well, I saw, the breaking news. I think CJ had signed about the same time. So it was
Sure.
big headlines, similar to this offseason. And um, it, I said, okay, well, Albert Pujols, surefire Hall of Famer. He's coming in. He's going to have to play another position. He's going to have to move. Wait, no, that would be me. So, I didn't know what was going to happen, to be honest. And at the end of the year in 2011, my rookie year, I had broken my foot. A rather tough injury. Takes a lot of, it was the navicular bone on the top of my foot, main weight bearing bone. A lot of NBA players deal with it. Sometimes it cost them their careers. At the time, I said, okay, I'll deal with it and get on with it. But it very much limited my ability in the offseason. It was slow to heal. And eventually, when Albert came into the fold and over the winter, I was given a heads up that third base was pretty much the only spot that had some availability. So I had next to no time. I believe I was probably cleared for baseball activities. I remember with a couple weeks before reporting to spring, so very little time to get up to speed to play a position that I knew would be a tall task. And, so following year, I ended up, I have a very fond memory. One of my, we can touch on it, was playing all 9 innings behind Jared Weaver's no-hitter at third base.
Amazing.
I still, and I'd love if we get a chance to have Soch on. Maybe he can explain why I was out there for 7th, 8th, and 9th at least. I remember looking behind, starting about the 5th inning. Where is Cayaspo? And 7th and 8th inning, I said, this is not funny anymore. Where is Cayaspo? And I'm assuming you were there covering the game.
I was.
In the 9th inning, I was like, I think people were looking at me too, possibly Dino or otherwise, and I'm like, there's nobody here. Okay. And fortunately, Jared was, he didn't get a lot of ground balls. He made it very easy on his defenders. I think I did have one of the tougher plays that game, fielded a bunt, which is beyond routine for a competent third baseman. But for me, it's a good memory. So
Now, as I recall, your first day at spring training at third base was not a very good memory. Am I correct? I believe it was a ground ball, bad hop, we'll call it.
I'm going to say it was field 3. I don't know if they've labeled them differently now, but it was down. And I'm still a little bit confused how they are now divvying up the fields. But back then, that was the minor league side firmly. So we were down there. I think we wanted to be out of view for everyone, as it was the first foray into this, and who knows how ugly it could be. But we found out pretty quickly. I don't think that one was my fault. That was part of the deal. Those fields get a lot of use, and it happened to be one of those things. And so I didn't break my nose, but I came away with a towel, and maybe indicative of things to come there. Don't look at the fielding percentage if anyone out there, But I was completely aware that I stunk, and it wore on me too, because you don't want to play, poor defense behind a pitcher that's out there working his tail off and costing them outs. So I did what I could. It became a situation where eventually it was quite obvious. Candidly had in talks with my agent. And I said, I was sitting in Yankee Stadium early afternoon on the phone, and I said, this is awful. I will keep going out there if that's what they want, but if there's any other solution, I would love to explore that. Unfortunately, an opportunity to play some left field came about, so I did move out there.
How, with all that was going on that year, how did you not let that affect you at the plate? Because you ended up hitting 32 homers and made your first All-Star team and took part in the home run derby.
I really don't know. I think all my focus, which sometimes could translate to the offensive side, was totally put on third base. And what am I going to do over here? How am I going to do a better job? A bigger guy, not that gifted with range, got to cover this, got to take away the bunt. And you look at guys that play it well, and I was like, not even in their, stratosphere. These guys is so much better. And some of them maybe had experience playing shortstop and had moved over, and it's a different deal. And I tried. I can say that. I gave it my best effort, but didn't last long. And to answer your question, I guess I give a lot of credit to Mickey Hatcher. He did a tremendous job. He really connected with me early on. He knew my swing. He knew what I needed to do, and he was quick to tell me when it didn't look the part. So I had a great resource in Mickey to guide me on the offensive side. And he doesn't maybe get talked about as much these days, but he is an incredible guy, incredible energy, didn't have a smile on his face, tireless worker. He'd throw till his arm fell off. And, I just have very fond memories of my time with him.
You had another big year in 2013, 34 homers, 100 RBIs, and then Jerry DiPoto, the GM at the time, traded you to Arizona. I know things didn't go quite as you planned there, and then you were traded to Seattle, and a couple years later, 2016, Jerry DiPoto's the Seattle GM, and he trades you to Baltimore. What did Jerry have against you?
I've talked to Jerry since, and Jerry's a very personable guy, and he's... I remember the first time, I wasn't surprised. It had been rumored, not unlike Ward's situation. I think that we needed starting pitching depth. I didn't know who I would be traded for, but I did know my name was being floated out there. And those things, I was given a slight heads up that something was possibly going down. I think agents tend to get, alerted about such a thing. And so when I found out it was the Diamondbacks, they're not local to Southern California, but they're close enough. But again, a team I really knew very little about, didn't follow them all that much. So I had to go in and essentially, I don't think I knew anyone on the team either, which makes it really tough when you get traded. I think that for the fans out there, some guys are social butterflies and they fit in immediately. I wasn't that. I don't think that should surprise too many, somewhat introverted and, definitely made an effort, but clicking with a whole new group of guys. And when you get traded, it's not just learning your teammates, it's learning possibly well over 100 people or more, from the staff, the clubhouse staff, to the PR department. And I'm not the greatest with names right off the bat, so and you don't want to call, hey dude, or guy or whatever. I'd like to be at least make an effort. But so there's that goes on. And my time in Arizona, I wish I could have done more. I think I had plantar fasciitis early on, battled that, ended up breaking some toes. Very strange thing. Hit a home run in Wrigley Field. So I was happy about that. And I go to jog out to left field for the next inning, and, pretty unbelievable pain. And what is this, like a cramp or something? And I'm like, there's not really any muscle there. So we got an image to broken 2 toes on my left foot, and had to deal with that. Did some rehab, came back. Down season, the numbers weren't great. I don't think the fans were thrilled. I wasn't thrilled. Came back the following year, had a much better start to the year. I think the numbers were pretty decent, but Arizona, I think, was a little thin at the catcher position, and Seattle was in need of a right-handed bat. So I was sent there. Again, mid-season trade, even tougher being a mid-season trade.
Yep.
Didn't know anybody, had to make all new friends. Started out terribly, awful month of June. Fortunately, they hired Edgar Martinez somewhere in or around that time. And him and Andy Van Slyke were very instrumental in getting me back on track. Andy being extremely blunt, which is, again, I really appreciated that. He told me, hey, what are you going to do about this? It doesn't look right. And I said, well, I agree with you. What do you have any thoughts? At the time he was kind of a hitting coach, but he took me out and he threw some very firm batting practice and realized my timing was just out of whack. And then Edgar, still in good enough shape to hit himself. So I still have great memories of handing him my bat and saying, how do you hit the outside pitch? How do you hit the breaking ball? And being a visual guy, what better? Edgar Martinez, I'm not going to question his knowledge on hitting. So I think that's one of those things in the game now that's a little bit of a hot topic is, former players are not, the Angels being one of the rare exceptions with Brady coming in. So that helped. And then I got traded again. What did Jerry have against me? I'm assuming if I had to answer the on-base percentage being low, it's not for lack of trying. I've said it before. I swung at too many pitches. I think too many pitches up in the zone, to be specific. Did it from a young age and was just unable to really make an adjustment there. So I lacked the on-base percentage that I think he looked for, and that's fine. I can, agree with that point. I don't think it was anything personal. He just didn't probably care for my particular brand of baseball. And so I traded to the Orioles, what another team knew next to nothing about. Growing up here, rooting for the Angels, why would I know anything about the Orioles other than Camden Yards looked pretty? I remember the home run derby there. That looked great, and that's about all I knew. I played against them as a visitor. You go in for 3 days, you're out. Sometimes you get a little bit of a feel for the city, but not much. But I ended up being a great place for me, to have a nice season going into free agency.
Yeah, 2016, your career year, I think it was 47 homers, 108 RBIs. That led to the big free agent contract the following year. But eventually the career was derailed by knee injuries. How tough was that in terms of the way your career ended? And does it give you some empathy for what Mike Trout's been going through these last few years?
It gives me a ton of empathy. I had a poor year in 2017. I had no excuses. You don't anticipate these things. I knew that I was coming off 2015. I had alluded to Edgar and Andy really helping me, and I liked where I was from a mechanical standpoint with the bat, trending upwards. But then you have the off season, so that puts a little bit of the brakes on that. But 16, everything kind of clicked. I didn't really expect that you want to put together a nice season. Some ended up being a lot better than others. I in hindsight now, because I don't have to go out there and hit, I think the good years versus the bad years, probably mechanically speaking, I was more sound. Mechanics at that point were not all that in fashion. Your swing. Your swing is your swing. Swing your swing. I've changed my opinion on that, but that was more or less what I was told coming up. I disagree with it completely now. I think guys can make big changes, and some really need to. And I was a guy that needed to. And even in my big league arc, it kind of wandered at times. And when I got off track, sometimes I wasn't able to get it back on track like I would have wanted. And I didn't take enough walks to offset the times where I wasn't really hitting. So that was a challenge. And then 2018, I actually made changes over the winter that I thought were really good. I think I had a more productive year with the bat, but my knee basically just went away, disintegrated, whatever. I know it started some clicking and then completely started to give out. And it was an odd injury. There wasn't a single incident that I could point to. It wasn't obvious what was even going on. It just started to swell a lot. And I just kept playing, probably to my detriment, almost most definitely to my detriment. But I was still hitting. I was still able to contribute there. And I think Buck Showalter was managing at the time, and I kind of had the mentality of I'm not going to be the first one to blink. You know, I don't know why I had that, but I think too much pride most likely.
Yeah.
But I wanted to play. I wanted to provide some value because I signed a contract and I wanted to earn it. So I kept going. Eventually, I could barely run at all. And he said, "Hey, what do you think about getting this looked at?" I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I agree."
Wow.
And we did, and it ended up being an injury that's a really tough one, a cartilage defect. It's not going to sound like much to the casual viewer, but you see some NBA guys deal with it, NFL guys, a few baseball guys have dealt with it. It was incredibly tough. Adults can't regrow cartilage, and a huge chunk had basically kind of peeled off. So it was bone on bone, and it's still that way now. So at some point, I will be needing a knee replacement. It's ideally not done on people my age, about to be 40. You'd like to wait a little longer so you don't have to get a revision. But I did get surgery on it, kind of one of those procedures that has a average best success rate, and worked diligently to recover. 2019 was, basically injured the entirety of the year up until September. I knew it wasn't right. I knew my athleticism was totally zapped, what little I had to begin with. And that was really a strange thing because I just didn't feel explosive at all. Couldn't exactly pinpoint why, but I'm a professional athlete going out here, and I got a couple hits. The numbers were not good, but I do take a lot of pride in the fact that I made an effort to come back, and maybe, like I said, to my detriment, but it was important to me, and I thought it, even if I was the only one that cared, I thought it was the right thing to do.
We'll close with a few somewhat rapid fire questions. What would you say your most memorable game was?
Got a couple. I think my first home run off of, at the time he went by Fausto Carmona. I believe he changed that. But you remember that. I had some walk-off home runs that were incredibly, that was awesome. I still, at times, will either, somebody will send the clip or I'll come across it. Especially those at Angel Stadium with the fireworks and stuff. And that's just a great feeling. I guess the home run derbies were a lot of fun, a lot of nerves, very tiring. They changed the format a little bit. And at that point, when you do those, there was really nothing on the line. Well, maybe there was a truck or something. I don't know. But there wasn't a huge financial incentive. So it was more just getting, the name out there and some exposure and hopefully putting on a good show. I think I did what I could. I didn't win any of them, but, there's people still seem to enjoy it. So that was cool. All-Star, no hits there either, but, go figure. But I got to say, I made the All-Star team twice. Not a lot of people, get to say that. So I did everything in the game that I really wanted. I tried to experience. I even got thrown out once. Kind of picked my spot in Chicago, young umpire, and up to that point, I'd never been ejected. So I was kind of wondering what does it take to get thrown out. But you add you in front of it. You'll find out pretty quickly. So
you're known for your. So you're known for your Trump bombs. What was the longest home run you ever hit?
It'd have to be the one in Oakland. Ended up being teammates with Dan Straley later, and he asked if I remembered that one in particular. To which I initially, it's kind of my style, pretended that I didn't know what he was talking about, and then I dropped the act and I said, "Well, Dan, of course I remember that. Do you?" It was. I think what was really cool is Victor Rojas and Gooby. They did a tremendous job on that call. I think that's probably the clip I get sent the most, and I'd like somebody else to maybe pace that one off again.
What was the distance? Did they Statcast that at the time? Do you remember?
It was maybe a little before. 479 gun to my head. I think it would. I think I went a little further than that. If it didn't, whatever. But I got all of it. I think I had some count leverage, 2-0, 3-1, whatever it was. And if you want to watch one, watch that one.
Craziest play you ever seen on a baseball field?
Craziest play? I don't know if I'm going to be able to pinpoint a singular one. Probably the craziest, I don't know, me playing third base all 9 innings in a no-hitter. I will try and come up with a better answer for now. That's what I'm going to say.
I know I can't ask you your favorite teammate because you won't be able to name just one, but favorite teammates.
I can remember so many. Torrey Hunter was incredibly influential. I had a locker next to him when I got called up, and he was a great example of a true professional. He tightened me up a couple times if he saw something, which I thought was totally fine. And that's how you learn. You have a guy say, "Hey, this is the way," and so that was great. Jared Weaver, for Borges, Conger, myself, a few of the young guys, he broke us in. And I think that was, I think the game's changed. I think fans are, per the comments and stuff we're getting, they want to know, what was it like? What was it like? I think it was, you were around it too. I mean, you covered the team. It was, the clubhouse culture was a little bit different. You had to earn your stripes, let's say. Definitely. And if you were a young guy that, hadn't done anything at the big leagues yet, you may not get, a ton of respect right away. You go out there and you get some hits. And, that's one thing too. A Trumbo nugget, you want to have more fun, get more hits. There you go.
Well, we'll end.
Just a couple more, because I don't want to leave anyone out. I think Eric Ibar would be the last one. And it might be somewhat surprising to people. Howie Kendrick, I mean, I could just keep going, but Eric was very good. He knew I took the game too seriously, and he would be at shortstop, and he'd kind of, do this across the way, and I knew exactly what he meant, and it worked really well. And it was, I always thank him for that, because without somebody like that, who knows? Just continue to mutter to myself, I wish I hadn't, but you can't have a redo. But he was good about saying, "Hey, man, have some fun," and big picture, who knows how long you're going to be out here? Make the most of it.
Funniest clubhouse story. We'll close with that. Anything come to mind?
One story. It's one of these things. After a game in Cleveland, an athletic trainer, longtime athletic trainer for the Angels, longtime athletic trainer, came in to the clubhouse on one of the large medicine balls, bouncing up and down. Might have forgot to put a couple layers of clothes on, but
I think I know who you're talking about.
Rick Smith, but in an effort to break the ice, and I think it was completely on point. The timing was perfect. Everyone was dying laughing, and Smitty was incredible in that way. He never took it too seriously. He had war stories going back decades. He'd seen it all. Another guy that was incredibly helpful, along with others that we've mentioned along the way. And that story, I'll never forget it. Can't unsee it. But that one's firmly imprinted on the old memory.
My fondest memory of Rick Smith is very similar. He tended to pull a lot of his stunts without any clothes on, but remember that like tool belt like thing he used to wear around his waist with all his tape and scissors and all of his training utensils. He came into the clubhouse after a tough loss wearing only that, and obviously dancing the only way Rick Smith could. So that is a visual we will not have on the show. But Mark Trumbo, this is your life. Thanks for sharing with us today. That's going to be all for Halo Territory, and we will see you next time.